What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman. It's been reported here at the channel on many times that Robert Downey Jr. probably would never return to the MCU to cheapen his sacrifice to save the universe, and then Dr. Dolittle bombed at the box office, and over the last couple of weeks before we went into this new normal, there were reports coming out that he could be headed back to the MCU, and it was based on two strong conditions, and unfortunately, one of the conditions is going to make this super difficult. We're going to break down what the reports are saying about Robert Downey Jr. reprising his role as Iron Man, and then I'm going to weigh in on what I think is most likely the case scenario and why it's probably a long shot at best if we'll ever see him in the flesh in the MCU. But hey, never say never, to quote Robert Downey Jr. We're going to break it all down, but first, if you could grab the subscribe button, we're giving away 2 PlayStation 4 Pros, as well as a whole slew of other Marvel related stuff, including a limited edition Infinity Saga box set. If you want to be entered to win, all you have to do, hit the subscribe button, then hit the notification bell, leave a like and a comment on this video, and if you want, stick around to the end of the video. We'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Now, of course, this probably all would have been a moot fact or a lot less of a story if Dr. Dolittle had done better at the box office, but as we all very well know, it completely flopped, leaving a lot of people to wonder if Robert Downey Jr. wouldn't turn around and head back to where he's been so successful in the past. But unfortunately, there are 2 conditions Robert Downey Jr. needs to be met in order to return, one of which is going to be a huge obstacle, and of course, that's how much money he wants to return. Now, we've reported on this before, and it was rumored somewhere between $75 and $100 million. And as I argued at the time when the story first broke, if you look at a budget on something like Spider-Man Far From Home, for instance, where the whole budget was only $160 million, then you're talking about paying almost half of the budget of the movie for one actor. And then that leads to the second condition and problem. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. is aware of just what his sacrifice meant to not just the fans, but the narrative in the MCU. He wouldn't want to cheapen that in any way, as much as he'd want to return. If all of a sudden Tony Stark Iron Man is back in the flesh and alive on Earth, then it will in some way not only cheapen what happened in Avengers Endgame in the Infinity Saga, but what's going forward, make sure that you know, hey, there really are no stakes for death. If Robert Downey Jr. can snap and come back, really anyone can. And we saw a little bit of that in Avengers Endgame when all of a sudden Gamora was there after she died in Infinity War, but that's a whole different thing, and I don't think the MCU is going to go to the well of time travel too often to bring people back from the dead. A, it's a different version of that person, and B, it leads you down the same exact line, pun intended, of having brought back characters, especially in the future. If a major character we love dies, it can't be more major or on the same level as Iron Man, and if Iron Man can come back, then anybody can. And that's where these 2 conditions that RDJ needs to reprise his role as Iron Man happen to stand mutually exclusive. Even if Disney could come up with the money, Marvel Studios wanted to bring him back, if they're not bringing him back as a lead, all of a sudden all of that money makes no sense. And as we conjectured here at the channel, some of you guys remember right after Avengers Endgame, one of the most commonly held theories was that AI message left for his daughter where he signs off, "I love you 3000, was actually not a pre-recorded message, but an artificial intelligence of him. And the main point of that argument was he knew exactly where to walk in the room in a pre-recorded message to look at his daughter and say, "I love you 3000. Now, of course, they wanted that to happen cinematically, so that's what happened, because it made sense for the narrative and closure for the audience to sort of get that visual cue. But of course, that was a pre-recorded message, in fact, and the writers and the directors came out and confirmed as much. I said going forward, he might find himself in some sort of digital form, either a hologram, and if you remember, a lot of the concept art leading up to Avengers Endgame had him as much, or some sort of voiceover. And when we all saw Edith first in the Spider-Man trailers for Far From Home, and then in the film, I don't think there was a single one of us who was hoping that Robert Downey Jr. wouldn't come up over the intercom on those glasses and say, "Hey kid." Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But as I said, these are mutually exclusive. You're not going to pay a ton of money and then have him come back as a hologram or a voiceover. And then there's the permanence problem. Even if you do this one time and one time soon, if we know that we can access a data bank and AI of Robert Downey Jr. the same way Dr. Zola was still around, then why do you not just go to that well all the time? In fact, why not just have him in all of those intercom earpieces all of the Avengers have, the same way that Iron Man has Monday or Jarvis in his? Look, the point is that once you've used him in the MCU again, once he's back from the dead, even as a hologram or a voiceover in the form of Edith, he's back for good. And if you need him in the narrative for any reason, alien tech going forward, solving something here on Earth, and you don't use him, then there will always be the question of why didn't you just do that? And for an MCU that's headed for a new resident smart man in Reed Richards, and I've mentioned this before, it's a point of not having too many leads in the MCU and allowing each character to grow. The death of Iron Man allowed Spider-Man's Peter Parker to grow and the Avengers team hopefully to grow in lieu of losing him. And if you always have him around, then they can't do as much. Peter Parker can't be inspired to become the leader that he will, and the Avengers can't be inspired to form a new team in the way of his absence. And then again, there's the new resident smart man in Reed Richards that will pop up. You don't need two of them, and you saw the egos that clashed when you had Doctor Strange and Iron Man at that. Of course, the Illuminati featured both characters, and we've lost Iron Man already, but that's from the comics, and the comic canon has never really dictated what they will and won't do in the MCU. Now, we do know that we will see Robert Downey Jr. one last time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's in the upcoming Black Widow. And I also saw a rumor last week, and I'm glad it died before we had to cover it here at the channel, that it wasn't just a pre-recorded scene, but we can go ahead and debunk that now. And it all stems from the story of Robert Downey Jr. not even wanting to come back to say the "I am Iron Man" before the snap. It was an emotional send-off for him, for the character, and closing out the role, something he had been a part of for over a decade, and something that he wanted to put down and leave alone. Not wanting to come back just to say one line, as emotional as that was and as close as it was to the fact that he had just left, is pretty indicative of him not wanting to come back to shoot a prequel scene in a movie like Black Widow, especially when they have a ton of leftover footage, or I shouldn't say a ton, they have leftover footage between him and Black Widow from Civil War, which is going to lead directly into the prequel timeline for this story. And it's that scene between Robert Downey Jr. and Black Widow that'll most likely be featured in this film, not something new that he shot. They've shown that scene in public before, just never included it anywhere on an official DVD or digital release, so there's no access to the public. But in a couple of conferences, something like a D23 or so, they have shown that before, and that's why we know it's the clip we'll most likely get. One final thought I'll leave you with: if there are any of you out there who truly do want to see Robert Downey Jr. back in the MCU, and one way that they could do it that wouldn't cheapen anything and would truly be a cheer moment for all of us in the theater, hopefully when we get back to that, is somewhere way down the road, like a Secret Wars, when we finally have that next crossover in a moment where they can't figure something out, or they're in the Avengers mansion or headquarters or lab. That's when Robert Downey Jr.'s AI pops back up with a pre-recorded message that makes a lot of sense, to do sort of a full circle narrative, the same way Robert Downey Jr.'s dad popped up in Iron Man 2 to lead him, to help him figure out how to make that element. You could do the same sort of thing there. He would film a new scene, but it would be a prequel recorded message. That way you don't fall into the Pandora's box of asking why he's not immediately involved with the team going forward after that. And in the rest of the MCU films, Robert Downey Jr. would get to return to the role somewhat, and in a film like Secret Wars that may be 10 or 12 years off, it would be fan service to bring him back then, but most likely not any time before, as if they did, it's only going to cheapen what happened at the end of Avengers Endgame, and I don't think there's a single fan who wants that. Look, Chris Evans recently said about returning to Captain America, they really stuck the landing, and it would be hard for him to come back to Steve Rogers unless it was the right situation and there was a story they really needed to tell, and him and Robert Downey Jr. are in the same boat with that sentiment. It has to be a story that really makes sense. They really stuck the landing with finishing Iron Man's arc. The fact that they were able even to accomplish this in the first place is amazing, and it would be a real shame if for some reason they decided to undo that just to get RDJ back. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments about all of this. I'm open to your ears. You guys always have very mixed opinions when we cover a story like this with Robert Downey Jr. coming back from the dead. I know a lot of you are in the same boat with me and don't want to see it if it's going to cheapen it. Let me know your thoughts down below, and quickly let's get into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. We're still giving away 2 PlayStation 4 Pros, the next of which is at the 650,000 subscriber mark. We're headlong into that, could easily hit that by this month's end or next. All you have to do to be entered to win, hit the subscribe button, then hit the notification bell, leave a like and a comment on this video, and that'll automatically enter you to win all the rest of the prizes we give away at the channel, like the limited edition Infinity Saga box set. We gave the first one away on New Year's Eve. We'll be giving the second one away on the 2nd anniversary of the channel in the end of April. If you want to be entered to win either of the PlayStations, the limited edition Infinity Saga box set, or any of the other prizes we give away here at the channel, all you have to do, and all the same rules will always apply, hit the subscribe button, then hit the notification bell with notifications turned on, leave a like and a comment on this video, and because it's truly random, the more videos you like and comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners will be announced at the end of videos, and if you've missed any of those past recent winner announcements, especially here real recently, no worries. All you have to do is scroll back through the channel, look for the winner announcement in the sub count in the title, click on that video and scroll to the end. My name's Michael Roman. This is Everything Always. Guys, thanks so much for checking out the channel, and stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.